Chosen one, someone is currently standing in the pouring rain, watching through the glass as you celebrate in a room they can no longer enter. They are realizing, with devastating clarity, that they got the wrong end of the stick with regards to your identity, and now they have to rethink their entire life. They mistook your warmth for weakness, and your authenticity for something they could easily consume. As they stand outside in the cold, they are forced to reconcile with the power they failed to recognize. You are the real thing, and in a world full of copies, that is a problem for everyone who is not. You are the kind of person who gives without keeping score. You show up for the people around you, not because someone is watching, but because showing up is simply who you are. You extend warmth even in cold seasons. You pour into others from a cup that never fully empties, because the source of what you carry is not external. The source is inside you. The source is soul. That is not a compliment being handed to you right now. That is a spiritual fact, and it is directly connected to why a target ended up on your back. Authentic people attract parasites, not because they are weak, but because they are abundant. Where there is genuine warmth, cold people are naturally drawn toward it. Where there is real light, hollow people begin to orbit it. Where there is actual abundance of spirit, not performed, not curated for an audience, but actual someone who has been running on empty, will always find their way to you eventually. And when they find you, they do not come in honestly, they come in performing, they come in mirroring. They put on a version of your energy, like a rented costume, and wait for that costume to grant them access to everything they see in you. Here is the thing about a costume, though. A costume has to be maintained. It has to be refitted, kept clean, and consciously kept on at all times. A costume does not exist on its own. A body, on the other hand, simply is. A body does not require constant effort, or upkeep, or deliberate performance. And the difference between performing warmth and actually being warm is that one of them gets tired under sustained pressure. One of them slips when the stakes climb high enough. You may have felt the difference before you could name it. There was probably a moment where the generosity they showed you came with a subtle invoice attached. There was a moment where the warmth felt like it was being aimed at you rather than given to you. There was a moment where something they said did not match something they did, and you quietly filed it away under the category of maybe I am imagining things. You were not imagining anything. You were reading the real person underneath the costume, and underneath the costume was someone who already knew, on some level, that the performance was not going to hold. There was a plan. The plan had one specific target, not your finances in isolation, not a single relationship, not one aspect of your work. The target was your identity itself, the way people saw you, the story that people held in their minds about who you are. Because the person behind this understood something instinctively, you could not be beaten directly, not in any honest contest of character, integrity, warmth or talent. On those terms, you won before the game even started, so the game changed. When you cannot beat someone in the light, you work in the dark. You do not try to outshine someone. You convince the people around them that the light they carry is actually something dangerous. You do not build anything of your own. You quietly dismantle what someone else is building, in conversations they were never invited to, in rooms they do not even know exist. And so the whispers began. Smart manipulators never open with outright lies. They start with questions wrapped in concern. They begin with carefully placed doubts delivered in the language of care. Did you know that about them? I just thought you should know. I am only saying this because I care about you. And the person on the receiving end of those words, someone carrying their own unhealed fears, their own places of vulnerability, leans in, because when a lie lands directly on top of an existing wound, it does not feel like a lie. It feels like confirmation of a fear they already held. Here is what you need to understand about the person who received those whispers. They were not a villain. They were also a target. The same manipulation that was running against you was simultaneously running against them. It was one hand on your reputation and one hand on their psychology, pulling both toward an outcome that served only one person in the entire equation. What outcome? Money, access, status, an initiation into something significant enough to finally fill the hollow space inside them where a genuine identity should have been. The person behind the scheme looked at your life and decided that you were the obstacle standing between them and everything they wanted. They were completely wrong, but they committed to that belief so fully that they built an entire architecture of deception around it. Architectures built on lies have one inevitable destination, and that destination is collapse. The collapse was already written into the foundation from the moment they chose deception over truth. If you felt called by this message, hype this video so other chosen ones like you can be reached. While the scheme was running, while the false picture of you was circulating, while doors were quietly being closed and connections were quietly being corroded, something entirely different was happening at exactly the same time. You were being tested, not by them. They do not carry that kind of power. You were being tested by something much larger, something that had been watching the life you were slowly, stubbornly building, and had one outstanding question before the next chapter of your life could fully open. The question was not whether you were talented. It was not whether you were worthy. It was not whether you deserved what was being prepared for you. The question was simpler than all of those things, and it was far more important. Who are you when it costs you something? Who are you when your warmth is not returned? Who are you when the generosity you offer is met with ingratitude? Who are you when the connections you trusted turn out to have been compromised from the inside? Who are you when a story is circulating about you that bears no resemblance to the truth, and the people around you seem to be believing every word of it? Who are you in that moment? Do you collapse into bitterness and start throwing it back? Do you sell your integrity for a faster resolution? Do you become the very villain they needed you to be to justify everything they were doing? Or do you remain? You remained. In every hard season of this, you kept showing up as yourself. You held your character through every manufactured storm without releasing it. You kept building when the building felt pointless. You stayed warm when the cold was coming from every direction. That is not something most people manage to do. That kind of endurance comes only from being deeply and irreversibly rooted in who you are. That was the test, and you passed it completely. Every test that is passed opens a door. The door that is opened for you now is not a side entrance or a secondary option. It is the main gate, the very one that the person behind this scheme was pressing their face against, lying and scheming and performing their way toward, and never once getting through. That gate opened for you because you earned the key, not by fighting, not by defending yourself loudly, by being, by remaining yourself through every season of pressure that was specifically designed to make you someone else. The door is open. What is waiting on the other side is everything. Look, you already know the attacks weren't random, and if you're paying attention you can feel it. Their walls are closing in. You've also noticed something else. A lot of Chosen One channels on YouTube have gone quiet, videos removed, voices pushed off the platform. The mainstream media is cracking down on us, but we will not give up our voice. So let's talk about what we're doing about it. That's why I built Destiny Engine, and when you join, you're not just supporting your favorite channels, you're also fueling your own rise. It's a 360 win. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity, and repurposing it to serve cooperative intelligence. The beauty is you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and your subconscious is rewired while your enemies collapse under the weight of their own lies. This is why I created it in the beginning, so everything they did to break you becomes fuel for your purpose. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your destiny engine for $1 today and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. Every mask comes off eventually. That is simply the physics of deception. Maintaining a performance requires constant exhausting energy that the truth does not require at all. And eventually, in a moment of high stakes, in a moment of desperation, when the pressure becomes more than the performance can absorb, the real face shows itself. Once it shows, it cannot be unseen. Something happened. The shape of it may look different for everyone receiving this, but something came to light, a contradiction too significant to rationalize away, a behavior that did not match the carefully constructed presentation, a truth that arrived at exactly the wrong moment for them and exactly the right moment for everyone paying attention. The person who had been holding the false story about you, the one who had been receiving the whispers and treating them as established fact, felt the ground shift underneath them. A question entered their mind for the first time. What if I got this completely wrong? Those words do not stay quiet once they arrive in someone's mind. They begin pulling at everything. Every memory gets re-examined with fresh eyes. Everything they were told about you gets measured against everything they actually witnessed with their own eyes. The warmth they experienced from you firsthand does not match the cold portrait they were handed. The generosity they received from you does not align with the selfish caricature they were given. The more honestly they look, the less the constructed story holds together. Meanwhile, in the schemer's world, what was happening was panic. The entire scheme depended on continued belief. The moment that belief started to waver, cracks became visible to everyone watching, and in desperation, the story got embellished. More detail was added to patch the weaknesses. The performance of concern grew louder and more insistent. But that is the fatal flaw of every elaborate deception. The more you add to it, the more surface area exists to contradict. The more insistent someone becomes, the more the insistence itself begins to look like the problem it is trying to conceal. The mask did not just slip, it came entirely off, and what was underneath it was exactly what you had always sensed was there, cold, hollow, and deeply afraid of being seen as they actually were. The reckoning arrives. It does not arrive because you fought for it. It does not arrive because you argued your case loudly enough, or defended your name with enough force, or made the right people see the truth through your own sustained effort. It arrives the way truth always arrives, on its own schedule, with everything it needs to settle the accounting without requiring your assistance. Every false word spoken about you has a ledger. Every manufactured doubt, every door quietly closed, every dark conversation designed to diminish you, there is a record of all of it, and that record is being settled right now. The abundance that was supposed to be intercepted is flowing toward you instead. The relationship that was supposed to be sabotaged is either healing or being replaced by something far more genuine. The inner circle the schemer was so desperate to infiltrate has assembled, and it assembled without them. The victory they were already celebrating privately in their mind has been claimed by someone else. The seat they schemed their way toward at your table was never theirs to begin with. This is not revenge, and it is not poetic justice. It is simply law. It is the law that says what you extend into the world returns to you. It is the law that says a structure built on deception cannot stand indefinitely, because dishonesty is not a load-bearing material. It is the law that says energy sent outward does not disappear, it completes its full journey and finds its way home to the source. You were not watching the horizon waiting for anyone to fall. You were busy living your life. You were building the exact life they were trying to block. You were being the exact person they were trying to diminish. The resolution arrived, not because you needed it, but because it was always going to arrive regardless. You were never the one who needed saving. The truth was always going to do that work on its own. Your only job was to keep being real, and you did exactly that. You deserve to have it named clearly, so you can finally put down the weight of a story that was never yours to carry in the first place. They got your motivations completely wrong. Whatever you were building, your work, your purpose, your creative expression, your community, they reframed all of it. They took something genuine and attached a sinister caption to it. They told the people around you that your warmth was calculated, that your generosity was a cover for something else, that your giving was actually a sophisticated form of taking. They handed someone a pair of distorting glasses and said, "Look at this person through these," and suddenly everything you are began to look like something worth being suspicious of. They changed the appearance of everything they are used to look through, not because the subject changed, but because the filter changed. The person who was used as an instrument in this scheme was wearing those glasses every time they looked at you. Every kind thing you did appeared to be strategy. Every generous act registered as manipulation. Every moment of genuine warmth read as performance. The real tragedy was not that they believed the filtered version. It was that the glasses were placed on them without their knowledge or permission. What those glasses could not reach, though, was the past. They could not go back and change what actually happened between you and this person. Your real moments with them lived in their body, in their direct memory, in a place that operates deeper than any narrative someone else can construct. And the moment those glasses came off, as they always do eventually, every single one of those real experiences was right there, exactly as it had always been, untouched, unchanged, waiting to be honestly remembered. Your identity was never actually stolen. It was temporarily obscured behind someone else's deliberate lie. The lie has now lifted, and there you are, exactly as real, exactly as warm, exactly as genuine as you have always been. The recognition is arriving slowly, uncomfortably, and permanently in the mind of the person who was deceived about you. That arrival will not be reversed. While the scheme was running in the dark, while the reckoning was quietly building, while all of it was unfolding on a stage you were not fully aware of, something else was moving toward you at the same time. It did not require your knowledge to build itself. It did not require your constant attention to grow. It was not conditional on whether things felt fair or whether anyone was acknowledging the effort you were putting in. The harvest was coming regardless. You have been planting for a long time. There were seasons when the soil felt impossibly hard. There were seasons when the results were completely invisible, when the work felt thankless, when the reasonable voice in your head started genuinely asking whether any of it was going to amount to something. But you kept going, not because the circumstances were always encouraging, because they were not, but because that is the nature of someone chosen. A chosen person does not require ideal conditions to keep building. A chosen person builds anyway. Every genuine act of creation you made in a season of opposition became a seed. Every time you showed up for the people around you when you had every justifiable reason to pull back, that was a seed. Every time you invested in your gifts while someone was simultaneously working to convince others those gifts were fraudulent, that was a seed. Every time you chose the long and honest road when the shortcut was clearly available and the detour through your integrity was genuinely brutal, that was a seed going deep into ground that was always going to return it with full interest. The ground is breaking open now. What has been building pressure beneath the surface is pushing through. The recognition that was delayed by the noise of the false narrative is arriving now that the noise has cleared. The community of genuine people who belong in your world is forming around you naturally, not because you recruited them, but because your presence called them in, the way authentic things always draw toward them what belongs to them. This is what was always meant for you, not as luck and not as coincidence, as a consequence, as the natural and inevitable outcome of everything you chose in the seasons when choosing it cost you something real. They saw the outcomes of your identity, the loyalty you attracted, the connections you built, the abundance that followed your genuine presence wherever you went, and they wanted those outcomes for themselves. But they made a critical error in their reasoning. They believed the outcomes were the thing itself. They were not. The outcomes were always symptoms. Your identity was always the cause. You cannot copy a cause by imitating its symptoms. You cannot manufacture genuine community by performing the surface behaviors of someone who builds it naturally. You cannot earn real loyalty by mimicking the warmth that has to actually be felt before it can be genuinely extended to another person. You cannot step into the abundance that belongs to someone's authentic path simply by standing close enough to it and hoping it transfers through proximity. Every attempt to imitate your warmth was registered by the people around you on a level they could not always translate into language. Something in the imitation felt slightly off. Something in it gave and then quietly withdrew. Something in it displayed care in public spaces and revealed coldness in private ones. The body understands these things. Human instinct catches what the conscious mind is too busy rationalizing to acknowledge. People felt the gap between what was being performed and what was actually present, even when they lacked the precise words to describe what they were sensing. The door they were trying to get through, the one that carries your name, the one that opened to admit you into the life being prepared for you, is not locked by any person's decision. No individual controls the key. It is a door that opens only from the inside, and the inside belongs entirely to a real, earned and genuine identity. That lock cannot be picked. That entrance cannot be charmed past. That threshold cannot be crossed through deception. You have to become the person that door recognizes, and becoming that person requires the one thing the schemer refused to do: honest self-examination, without flattery or excuse, and the unglamorous and unwitnessed work of genuine inner growth. It requires you to stop performing a life and start actually building one from the inside out. The schemer chose the shortcut instead. The shortcut does not lead through that door. The shortcut leads off a ledge. Your door, meanwhile, swung open before you even raised your hand to knock. Because you and that door have been in a long, slow conversation across your entire journey. Every hard choice made in integrity, every season in which you stayed true to what you actually are, every moment you chose not to trade your identity for a faster or more comfortable outcome, all of it was being recognized. And when you finally stood in front of that door, it already knew you by everything you had spent your whole life becoming. Stop explaining your identity to people who formed a verdict about you before they finished a single complete sentence with you. Stop returning to conversations with people who were never genuinely interested in the true version of your story. Stop softening yourself at the edges so that people who feel threatened by your presence can feel more comfortable around you. Stop apologizing for the size of what you carry. Stop making your gifts smaller so that the room does not have to adjust to how brightly you illuminate it. You inadvertently confirm the false story. Every apology you offer for who you are, every disclaimer you attach to your warmth as though it requires defending, every moment you minimize what you have built and who you have become, in each of those moments, you are effectively handing the person who lied about you a pen and inviting them to continue writing the story they started. Your identity does not require a defense. It requires a full and committed embodiment. The most powerful move available to you right now, the single action that closes the chapter on the false narrative more decisively than any argument or correction ever could, is to simply and completely be yourself, visible, warm, building, creating, giving, in full view of everyone, without shrinking, without providing commentary, without explaining yourself to people who were never asking in genuine good faith. Let your life be the rebuttal. Let your abundance be the living evidence. Let the people who gather naturally around your authentic presence be the testimony that no external validation could improve upon. Nobody is coming with a megaphone to announce that you were right all along. Nobody is going to deliver the apology you deserve in the exact form you deserve it, in front of every person who needs to witness it, on the schedule that would feel most just to you. That is not how truth operates in real life. What actually happens is this: you build, and the building becomes undeniable. You create, and the creation speaks for itself. You show up as yourself with such consistency that the false story simply cannot survive the cumulative weight of evidence that your actual life produces. The most complete response to someone who misread your identity, who picked up the wrong end of the stick and ran with it, is not a correction delivered in words. It is a demonstration delivered through living. It is you inhabiting the life they worked to block, in full and undeniable color, while they stand outside in the rain watching it unfold. That is not revenge. That is simply what happens when you stop letting someone else's false story interrupt your real one. Something has changed in that person. The desperate hunger that drove everything, the frantic scheming, the endless performance, the relentless pushing toward a belonging they were never going to be able to earn through imitation, that hunger has curdled into something quieter and more honest now. It has curdled into real shame. Not the performed variety that someone puts on when they have been caught and need to appear remorseful for an audience. Real shame is the kind that arrives in the silence after everything collapses and the noise dies down and there is truly nothing left to do except sit with the full accounting of what you allowed yourself to become while pursuing what you wanted. That accounting is happening for them right now. It is hard. It is supposed to be hard, not as punishment, but as a necessary mechanism. You cannot move towards something genuinely better without first facing honestly what you were. The cold they are sitting in is the beginning of that process, whether they have the vocabulary for it yet or not. What they choose to do with that reckoning is entirely their own business. Their apology is not your condition for moving forward into what is coming. Their transformation is not your responsibility to stand still and wait for. You do not carry their unresolved story forward into your next chapter. What you carry forward is the knowledge that you earned everything that is yours. The gate opened for you because of your character, your persistence, and your absolute refusal to become something smaller under sustained pressure. A key forged through that process cannot be lost, cannot be stolen, and cannot be transferred to someone who did not earn it. It belongs to you the way your soul belongs to you, by nature, not by anyone's permission. That celebration was never about their exclusion, it was always about your arrival. Every piece of this journey, the test, the scheme, the reckoning, the harvest, the collapse of the false story, and the undeniable rise of the real one, it was all part of the same single movement. All of it was pointing toward one destination. You, walking through the door that was always yours, into the abundance that was always being prepared for you, taking the seat that carried your name on it, long before any of the drama ever began. The person standing outside pressed their face against that glass and saw warmth inside and believed it was something they were being kept from. What they never understood was that they were never on the invitation list, not because anyone deliberately excluded them, but because the gathering inside is not the kind that can be arrived at through schemes or performances or carefully constructed lies. It is a gathering of real things, real warmth, real purpose, real gifts and real abundance that flows from genuine work and genuine soul. And real things have always recognized each other. They always have. They always will. You walked through that door exactly as yourself. You did not arrive as a defended version or a polished version, assembled specifically for the occasion. You arrived as exactly you, the warmth that has always been yours, the gifts that have always been yours, the identity that was temporarily hidden behind someone else's deliberate lie and is now standing in its complete and unobstructed clarity. You are still warm. After everything that was aimed at you, after every season of opposition and confusion and manufactured doubt, you are still warm. That is not ordinary. That is extraordinary. The capacity to remain open in a world that handed you genuinely excellent reasons to close yourself off forever, that quality in you cannot be manufactured, cannot be copied, and cannot be taken away no matter what anyone throws at it. The person who was deceived about you is rethinking the story they were handed. That rethinking is real and it matters. The one who built the scheme in the first place is sitting in the cold produced by their own choices returning home. That reckoning is real, and it is proportionate to everything that was set in motion. And you are standing on the inside of the room with the harvest arriving and the door swung wide open, and everything that was always meant for you beginning finally to land. Your real story, the one written in your actual choices, your actual character, your actual showing up season after season, when stopping would have been far easier. That story never stopped being written. It kept going quietly and stubbornly while the false narrative was running alongside it. It kept going without an audience and without applause, and now it is the only story that anyone who matters is reading. They got the wrong end of the stick. They misread your identity from the very beginning. They built a false picture of who you are and handed it to people who deserved the truth. And now they are sitting with the full weight of that. Now the people they misled are sitting with the full weight of that. Now the entire architecture of the deception is on the ground in pieces, and there you are standing whole, warm, building, receiving, exactly where you have always belonged. You earned every bit of this, every hard season, every moment you chose to remain yourself when becoming someone smaller would have been so much easier, faster, and less painful. You are the real thing. In a world full of performances, you are the person behind the presence. In a room full of imitations, you are the original that the copies were always trying to become. Originals do not expire. Originals do not depreciate. Originals are not replaced by the imitations made in their image. Originals get recognized. Welcome to your recognition. It was always yours. Every single bit of it was always yours. Now receive it.